Welcome back to the channel. My name's Brad and I'm out here at Piney Grove, and what we're about to do today is spray these pastures behind us. We've got about 5 or 6 acres of pastures here. We got a 1 acre food plot in the back, and then we got 3/4 of a mile of fence all the way around the property. We've got a 5-foot king cutter brush hog that we use behind our Kubota tractor, and we do a lot of mowing. But what weeds will do over time is they'll learn to grow shorter under your mowing deck, and they'll still go to a seed head and spread their seeds. And before you know it, you'll have just as much weeds as you do grass in your pastures and your lawn. And then also on our fence line, we have a lot of woody brush. So I've got a different chemical for that. But if you don't treat that, if you just mow that, again, it'll be just like trimming a shrub around your house. It'll just get lower and bushier instead of going away. So we're gonna chemically treat this pasture and also our fence line to kill the undesirables. And the reason you want to kill those type of things as opposed to mowing them is eventually they'll take over. We talked about seed heads and how they spread their seed, but also weeds use nutrients that you want to go to your desired crop, in this case grass. We usually put out about 20 bags of triple 13 every year, and at $16 a bag, simple math, that's what, $320? Well, now it's $25 or $26 a bag, so that's $200 more. So we're looking at $520 to do the same amount of fertilizing as we did last year. And so we want that fertilizer to go to things we want to fertilize, like our grass and not weeds. So that's another reason why we want to eliminate as many weeds as possible. You can get big sprayers like for your tractor, but having an ATV sprayer, I got a 15-gallon ATV sprayer on this 400cc ATV, and it is perfect for this size of property. So let's look at the chemicals we're going to be using, and then also look at the machinery we're going to be using, the sprayer and the ATV. So first of all, for the pastures, I have something that's called Pasture Pro. It's basically the same thing as a very common chemical that you probably use on your lawns, and it's 2,4-D, but Pasture Pro also has another salt in it. That's what 2,4-D is a salt, but Pasture Pro has another salt in it that hits a different spectrum of weeds, broadleaf weeds, other than just 2,4-D. So I've got some 2,4-D, and I also have Pasture Pro. So we're gonna apply that on our pastures at a rate of 1 quart per acre. So the next chemical we have is a brush killer. And again, this is for the fence line. And this is a non-selective herbicide, whereas Pasture Pro is a selective herbicide where it targets the broadleaf weeds and leaves your grass alone. But this is a non-selective herbicide. So whatever you spray on this, it's gonna kill it. And then lastly, we have a surfactant. And what a surfactant does is it breaks down the waxy substance that's on your weeds. In order for the chemicals to burn the weeds off effectively and efficiently, you want that chemical to get to the actual plant, and if the plant has a waxy coating on the leaf or the stem, then the chemical won't absorb as well. So you put a surfactant out as well in your tank mix, and that breaks down that waxy substance. We're gonna be using this 15-gallon FIMCO ATV sprayer. I've had this thing for several years and absolutely love it. This thing actually came with a spray bar, so I've got 2 nozzles in the back. So I'll fill this with 15 gallons of water, some surfactant, and about 1 quart of herbicide, and then I'll spray that out over an acre and come back and refill. I have a toggle switch that I can turn on the pump on and off, and it'll spray it out evenly with these 2 nozzles. And the nozzles go a little bit wider than the ATV, so I just look at my ATV tracks in the grass and just stay about 1 foot off or so from my last set of ATV tracks and just go down the line. This sprayer also has a wand, and it's here on the back, and you'll see it when we spray around the fence line. So I actually will ride the ATV, use the throttle with my right hand, and use the wand with my left hand, and just go down the fence line and hit that brush. So this is a valuable tool. I use this on my 1,200 acre hunting lease, and I use it here on the farm. It runs off your cigarette lighter or your 12-volt receptacle on your ATV. And like I said, I got a toggle switch. I can turn the pump on and off. So we'll go over the controls real quick. Here's the toggle switch. You simply turn it on with your thumb, and that sends power to the pump. And so this valve right here will run that recirculation. This valve right here will run the spray bar. So you'll turn that on, and then you'll use your toggle switch to send water to the spray bar when you want the spray bar off. This is always energized or always has pressure, and this goes to your actual spray wand. So that's it, very simple setup. It's strapped onto the ATV with just a couple of ratchet straps. It came with these black brackets, but I put these pieces of wood just to keep the sprayer up off of my racks so that it doesn't rub on the metal racks and it's up on these pieces of wood. but that's all there is to it. Very simple, very easy. So the first thing I do is check the inlet side of the pump and make sure that screen is clear. I want to make sure that the pump gets plenty of pressure and has an uninterrupted flow of water coming from the bottom of the tank. And you can see in the back there, that's where that connects to. And that's the very bottom of the tank, and there's a shutoff valve back there, and that allows you to turn off the flow coming out of the tank so that you can check that screen. Once I got the screen clear, I turn on my ATV just to get power to the pump. Come back here and turn on that shutoff valve. And now the pump's energized. You can see it's already got pressure. And I just do that to the spray bar. And then I check the pattern of the nozzles. You want to make sure that they're spraying uniformly and they're not clogged at all. And you'll be able to tell if they're clogged because it'll not be even all the way across. So you can see by the wet mark on the ground, it goes about a foot or two past each side of the ATV. Now that we've got that checked, we turn that off and you'll hear the pump run, and then it turns off when it hits a certain pressure, and it stays off until that pressure drops, much like a well. And then here's the recirc. And if we look down in the tank, should be able to see the water recirculating in there. Turn that off. Pump pumps up the pressure and you're ready. So these are fairly routine chemicals, but I'm still going to wear gloves. And then when I'm spraying, I'm actually going to wear a mask. So I've got a 1 pint measuring cup. I'm just going to fill this up twice. That'll give me a quart. Put it in the water. And I'm going to put 1 pint of surfactant in here. That does it for chemicals, so I'm going to finish filling this up with water. Well, we're all suited up and ready to go. Covered up my exposed skin on my arms. I got my mask on, something to protect my eyes, and some gloves for my hands. So you can see by my ATV tracks how much I got done, and I know about what an acre is, and when I went over that amount of land area, I hadn't emptied the tank. And I went back over it to make sure I got that quart on that acre. And the reason that's important is you don't want to weaken a weed and not kill it, and then it develops a resistance to the chemical. So you want to use the manufacturer's recommendation for the application rate and stick to that, because you don't want to create problems later on with weeds that you can't kill. Okay, tank 2, same thing, 1 quart of Pasture Pro and then 1 pint of surfactant. That's it, that's tank number 2. Fill it with water, let it agitate, and go back to spraying. Okay, so I think I got the ATV speed figured out to get that 1 quart per acre without having to go over it twice. So I'm just going a little bit slower. And then in places where there's more weeds than grass, or there's more weeds in other areas, I'll just slow down there and just let it really coat those weeds. There's no sense in putting a lot of chemicals where there's not a lot of weeds. So I just maintain a constant speed over the pasture where there's less weeds. Number 5. Okay, so I got 5 tanks spread out, and that's about right. I figure we got about 5 acres of pasture out here, not counting the roads, and I didn't want to get too close to the pond, and so I think I got that about right at my speeds and the amount of product that I put out. So now I got another tank full. That'll be the 6th tank, and I'm going to go around the perimeter of the property and the walking path we have all the way around the property. And then we'll come back and fill the tank with the chemical to treat the fence row. And that is a non-selective herbicide, so that will kill anything that it touches, and that'll keep that fence row nice and clean. And also prepare areas of the fence row that we haven't done yet, that have old fencing, and it'll help keep back that brush until we can get to it and re-fence those areas. So we're all done with putting out the Pasture Pro. We did the 5 acres of the pasture, and we did 2 trips all the way around the perimeter of the property. Tried to get as close to the fence as we could with the spray so that it would kill the brushy material up against the fence. But that was with Pasture Pro. So what I got the tank full of now is brush killer. So the instructions on here say 3 ounces per gallon of water, which will be 45 ounces, which is what I have in the sprayer, is for mid-size, actively growing, easy to control species. And then you just increase the amount of the chemical for the bigger plants that you're trying to eliminate. So for 5 ounces per gallon, you would do large, dense plant populations or hard to control species. So we're gonna try this at 3 ounces per gallon and see how it works in a couple weeks, but I'm trying to control the brushy material that's around the fence line and also around all these trees we've left in the pasture. So I'm going to use the spot sprayer with this concentrated mixture and just soak down the plants that are around these trees in the pasture, and we'll show that right now. Turn on my pump. So I turn on my pump and I pressurize my wand and I just spray. It's actually pretty difficult to do. This ATV doesn't have power steering, so I have to do all my steering with one arm and the throttle and then try to get lined up with the sprayer, but it's a lot easier than walking around the property. But it'll be interesting to see how well this stuff does on that brushy material, because some of that stuff is, 3 foot tall, and I soaked all the leaves with it. Now, it won't hurt those oak trees. They're too big, and like we talked about the directions before, you have to put more and more chemical concentrate in order to kill larger material, but you're not going to kill a tree that big, especially just getting a little bit on the bark. Okay, as you can see in the background, the ATV is cleaned up and put away. I was able to go around the whole property line and spray the fence. There was a lot of briars and vines and some volunteer oaks and some brush and just different things that are hard to kill. That's all I've got for you today. Thanks for watching, and until the next one, take care out there, y'all. 2 weeks after spraying, you can still see the ATV tracks in the grass, but almost all of the broadleaf weeds have been killed off. See a lot of brown in there. And that's all of those broadleaf weeds. The pasture just looks amazing.